Hey everybody, doing an audio check. Let me know if you can hear me okay. All right, everybody, trying my audio again, adjusting some volume levels. Let me know how that sounds. I see Starjump Starlet in chat. Hope you're well, Starlet. Everyone says 5 by 5. Hopefully it is good. All right, we'll see you in just a minute. All right, hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Nice to see you all again. It's been a little bit of a weird past 2 weeks. I know I was supposed to do Shipyard on Tuesdays. I'm still sticking to that. Tuesdays, I think it's, what am I doing at 11? I think is my usual stream time for Tuesdays. The past Tuesdays that has slipped. The reason is because on the first Tuesday I missed, I was getting new internet. I had fiber optic installed, and then yesterday, of course, 1 week later, I I was getting my internet buried. They buried the optical line. But for those of you who have never had fiber optics before, the cable's pretty fragile because it's made of glass, so they break a lot when they're burying them. And of course, it broke, so I lost internet all day. They had to fix it, back up and running now. So that's why this episode is a day late. But we're here. I'm still trying to stick with the schedule. Again, it's just sometimes if something critical like that or a client meeting get in the way, I may have to shift a day. But my goal is to always do shipyards every week moving forward. So that being said, a couple other announcements before we jump into today's topic. Again, for those of you that don't know, the Starjump Shipyard live format that I'm doing now is a little bit more free form. Definitely open to hear your questions and comments in chat, so feel free to hit me with those while we're chatting. Today's episode is going to be all about cargo ships in Star Citizen and um, what the overall cargo vision is, how easy it is to haul stuff, which ships are better for that, scales of economy, all that stuff we're going to talk a little bit about. Maybe a wandering conversation, but it should be kind of fun. Um, but a couple other things I wanted to get out there. Let me switch over to my stream window here. Bear with me. Where is my there it is. There it is. So for those of you that won posters, if you want an IAE poster during my IAE streams, those posters are being finalized now, meaning essentially what that means is I've added the ships that were revealed during CitizenCon. So the Hornets, the Medical Terrapin, the Intrepid, and the Paladin. Those are getting added to these posters. I'm almost done with that. And those posters will start processing probably tonight. So if you're one of the winners of them, um, you'll be getting, I'm processing them over the next 2 to 3 days. I can't do them all at once because Vistaprint, who we use, they don't have a great system for that. So I'm going to do a batch today, a batch tomorrow, a batch the next day. They do take about 2 weeks to process, print, and ship. So just a heads up on that. If you were a winner on that, one of those, it will take some time to get to you. There's a couple people that I was returning some favors for and did some posters. So if you're one of those, yours will be in the same processing wave. And then I think there's one or two of you I owe coins to. Those will ship out soon. I've got them all packaged up. Just need to ship them. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into. First off, how's everybody in chat? Hope you're doing well. I know I saw Starlet and VMXEO. There's Starjump Ender. Rusty Pigeon. Hello. Hope you're well. Yes. So we're going to jump into it today. We're talking about cargo ships, which is a little bit of a tricky topic in Star Citizen, because I do think that while the vision has remained much the same through Star Citizen's life in terms of how CIG envisions cargo being interacted with on a physical, from a physical basis, being loaded into your ships manually or through automated processes, but I think primarily they would love you to do it manually, and then because that validates other ships and other gameplay mechanics. But loading that cargo, getting that cargo from A to B, unloading the cargo, and obviously making a profit. While that vision I think has mostly stayed the same, what I think has started to solidify in everyone's mind, including CIG's, is now that more of the components and gameplay parts and pieces are in. So for example, now we have tractor beams and all this kind of stuff. We're starting to get a good picture of what that gameplay loop is starting to look like, the problems with it, and what may need to be solved before moving forward, how that may affect previous cargo ships, and then just generally about how much of a lift cargo running is going to be, like how much of a heavy lift that's going to be on a player, and what that probably will mean for cargo's profitability. And then ultimately, too, I think we should probably talk a little bit about, base building and crafting. These are two, you've all heard me say this before, but base building and crafting to me are Star Citizen. They are the point of the game. And it does work from just a narrative standpoint. You're a citizen in the verse. Citizens are usually doing jobs and into industry and trying to make money to survive, right? I think that's a pretty adequate description of a citizen. And so industry, base building, crafting, all that kind of stuff, I do think, is integral to being the point of the game, where things like combat and stuff like that are going to be more are going to be essentially side effects of doing the main gameplay loops that are resource gathering, base building, crafting, all that stuff. I think things like combat, medical, some of that sort of stuff is just going to be and repair. Gameplay loops like that I think are just going to be roll-ons to the primary gameplay loops. It's still very important, but essentially you're going to need combat to defend your base building and crafting operations, essentially. So and I know there's a lot of people that will disagree with that and say, well, combat is the point of the game or whatever, and that's totally fine. Obviously everyone has their opinions, but just based off everything I've seen with CIG, base building seems to be critical. So I think it's important to look at how cargo ships factor in to the base building, gameplay loop, some of the decisions that were made with some of the base building ships. I don't know why I keep going out of focus. Sorry about that. And ultimately, what may be the better cargo ships for the future of the game, right? And at what scale, because bigger is not always better. The way you need to look at ship scales is that they are all playing in within the same gameplay loop. So, for example, the Prospector, the Mole, the Orion are all playing in the same gameplay loop, but they're operating at different scales of that gameplay loop. One scale is not better than the other. There's nothing wrong with doing the solo, small scale mining. That still needs to be done. That's still going to be a critical part of life and the verse. So is the large scale stuff. It just really it really matters like what scale of the gameplay loop you want to play in. Some people are going to want to play on the big stuff, some people on the small, some people in the middle. So talk a little bit about that. That being said, real quick, let me address chat. I hope you're all well. Starting to have people roll in. Appreciate that. Showing like 30 over on Twitch and about 60 over on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out. I know it's a bit of an off time today. I was a little worried that no one would show up just because of the off time, but I appreciate it. If you have any questions, obviously just put them into brackets. I'll try to catch them. If I don't catch them, I apologize. I do have my little notepad up though, so if you do post a question, I will try to get to it. Obviously, we'll try to stay mostly on topic in that, cargo ships, cargo gameplay loop, tying into other gameplay loops, etc. So real quick, let me turn on this other light because I can see my camera struggling. For those of you that have not had the pleasure of having the Brio camera, it's very light sensitive. So I've had a couple people mention the Raylan. Raylan cargo question, Raylan cargo. Well, we can talk about the Raylan really quickly. Let me go ahead and bring up something here if we're going to talk about that, and then we'll jump in. It's interesting. There's a lot of chatting about the Raylan cargo capabilities here. Is it about loading them because it has the asymmetrical, or sorry, the triangular? Are they triangular cargo pods? Let's see. So here, let's see. It just says Raylan cargo. Taylor, I'm assuming you're just asking about the Raylan's cargo and how that's handled. The triangular pods on the side of the Raylan, so where are they? These right here, they're just pods for standardized cargo units. So, one SCU, 2 SCU, 3 SCU, 4 SCU boxes are just fitting in there. I'm not sure how big each one of those are. I would assume it could easily fit a 4 SCU box. It's possible it could fit 2 8 SCU boxes. I'm not really sure. I haven't done the math on that. But ultimately, it's just a container. The shape will probably have some wasted space just because the SCUs are obviously a cube. But it's still just a carry-all for standard cargo units. Really no different than any other cargo grid in Star Citizen. It's a ton of wasted space, but you could also say the same for almost any cargo ship. So, for example, you could take the Starlancer and say, well, why have the cargo grids just on those linear runs on the port and starboard side of the ship? Why not have them down the middle too? Where the gangway is. I mean, there's lots of sacrifices that could be made. CIG does make decisions based sometimes just purely on design. And because of that, sometimes there's wasted space. For example, people have brought that up with the Carrack's cargo drop pods before, and the little catwalks that go along the top, on how those could actually prevent some taller vehicles like ballistas and stuff from getting in there. I think CIG does a lot of wasted space sometimes for the sake of design. I think this is just one of those. I mean, I think what's important is if the triangular cargo pods still, in total, like if you add them all together, even with their wasted space, if they still carry the amount of cargo that was advertised, because that's what people paid money for, right? Were those type of those metrics, right? So if someone bought this because they're like, oh, the SCU makes it sit right here, which is perfect for me, so this is what it can carry, so I'm buying it. As long as you can fit that amount of SCU into these triangular pods, then I think they were great. I do agree with you that there's some concerns about how the pods are stacked in terms of how you'll get SCU into them, but we'll just have to see how CIG deals with that. CIG could also have this just be exterior cladding, and maybe it's it contains a just an empty void in there for you to put the boxes, and it could just be triangular exterior cladding. It doesn't necessarily need to be the actual pods. We'll see how they change that. They do address that though here in this first question. They say the brochure says bespoke triangular cargo pods are made from high grade materials, blah 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 blah. Will the Raylan's cargo pods be more durable than those in the whole series? It says these pods are part of the ship. So I imagine the pod will, like, all the pieces of the pod, the front of the pods, so the triangular caps, I think those will like animate away with some like Xeon alien tech. Those will animate away, and then you'll just be exposed to the 1 SCU or 2 SCU or 4 SCU crates on the exterior, and then you're just pulling them off with tractor beams. So in a way, I think you could look at it almost as exterior cargo. It says here, as standardized cargo units are contained within the pods, they're treated as normal by cargo stations. So all these are individual cargo bays. Now, I think a waste of space is the least of my concerns, and more ease of loading and offloading. That's probably the bigger concern. So we'll see. We'll see how they handle that. Sorry, I saw another question. Bear with me. Question by Lunatic says, do you consider the BMM a cargo ship, a trading vessel, or something else? So that's pretty good. Let's talk about that for a minute. I'm actually going to switch over to Hangar Link real quick. And let's bring up the BMM real quick. So what do I consider ships like the Banu Merchantman? Well, I consider them very similar to ships like the Kraken, actually, where it's I call them multi-role ships. That's how I look at it. They're a ship designed to do multiple things, and I think while CIG doesn't explicitly say that, I sort of wonder if that's how they ultimately look at these as well. Because a good case in point is you would identify the Kraken as a carrier ship, right? It carries vehicles, ships in particular, from A to B. That's its whole point. It's supposed to be extreme long distance ship. This is what you load ships on to carry it from Stanton to Pyro to Magnus, or Stanton to Pyro to Terror, or whatever the links in the chain are. However, it was only just recently on the Ironclad is Rad ISC, which I think was just last year. Was it last year? Yes, I think it's last year, or early this year. But where John Crew referred to the Kraken as an in-game cargo ship. So I think was those exact words, or he said freight ship cargo? I think he said in-game cargo ship. So, and one could say, well, it's not really a cargo ship. It does carry a nice amount of cargo, right? But it's not a cargo ship. It's a carrier. But I think CIG thinks of that as not as cargo ships, not just carrying SCU cargo, but also carrying anything you can put on it, right? So other ships, vehicles, all that stuff, right? So personally, I think ships like the Banu Merchantman, Kraken, they hold a decent enough amount of cargo area to be considered a cargo ship, but they are not explicitly a cargo ship. Obviously, the Banu Merchantman, you can do trading out of that. It can be an everything ship. It's going to have decent combat capabilities, it looks like, or defensive capabilities at the very least. It carries a snub, it carries a, what's the Banu Merchantman? Or sorry, the Defender. That's a medium ship. I know chat can correct me if I'm wrong. It carries a small ship with it in the Defender, or any other ship you can fit in there. It's going to be able to do multiple things, right? And I think CIG looks at the ship like that. I mean, ultimately, I think that's good too, especially for bigger ships, because it allows those bigger ships to apply to more people, right? And they do need to sell these big ships, right? Because CIG is not going to build these giant ships if only 50 people own them. We need enough people to own them that people want to build, or the CIG wants to build them. Kraken, same way. You can not only land ships on top, it can be carrier, it can be an industrial platform, it's a mobile space station. You're going to be able to operate stores out of this. And no, I'm not talking about the privateer. We've already seen with base building and crafting that you're going to be able to maglock items to mannequins or shelves or whatever for people to buy. Essentially, that means you're going to be able to run a shop off the Kraken. The only difference between that idea and the privateer is the privateer you can run NPC driven shops, right? But you're still going to be able to do marketplace gameplay with the base Kraken. It'll just have to be a player run shop. So yeah, I think there's some subset of ships that are I consider multi-role, right? Um, the counter to this would be something like the Hull D, right? The Hull D's real purpose is to carry cargo and freight. Ultimately, there's really not any other reason you would use the ship. Um, it's not really a daily driver. It doesn't have any real combat, defensive or offensive means. It's not. It's not. There's much better ships to act as your mobile hospital. It doesn't mind. It doesn't do it. It doesn't really support industrial operations. It can to some degree by just being a way station to drop cargo off on. So I won't totally discount that, but it's a little bit more focused in its role. So yeah. VG says, question, do we know if cargo boxes or materials simply need to be in close proximity to base building vehicles, or will they need to be aboard the vehicle that is actively building? That's another great question. I assumed, VG, that they just needed to be within proximity. However, I question that to some degree now because I think, again, we have to turn our attention back to base building vehicles. If you look at base building vehicles, so let's take the CSV FM, the fabrication module of the little driving vehicle. John Cruz stated it has a small freight elevator type thing in it that you load the 1 SCU boxes in, they pull down, the drones keep building. The drones do have to come back, I think, and resupply. CIG also mentioned this in regards to the Starlancer build. They said it had those resupply drone arms where the drone comes back, lands, pulls in more building material from your cargo grid, takes back off and continues building. They also mentioned the same thing in regard to the Pioneer. They specifically said that, that 1,000 SCU of cargo the ship can pull from. And one of the other things they talked about was that they wanted to give this, I think they were referring to the Starlancer build in this, but I think you can also include the Pioneer. They said they wanted to make sure that those base building ships carried enough cargo to be able to build 1 or 2 structures without having to go back for more base building materials. So yeah, I do think we're going to have to load them. It's a good question. I50mm says, question, do you think the pilot of the Banu Merchantman will still have access to fire the size 8 guns? I don't know. We'll see where CIG lands on that. I don't know. Maybe? I think so. Probably. I think so. What I wish CIG would do on those is they would allow... one way I thought would be nice to kind of limit it is if the pilots can control them non-gimbaled, right? But then a gunner could control them with the ability to gimbal them. That I think could be interesting. I don't know. I haven't really thought that out much beyond that, but I think that could be an interesting way to sort of differentiate. So anyway, multi-crew ship. But let's talk about cargo ships. And I think you can't really go too far into Star Citizen without talking about the whole series, right? So we're going to bring those up real quick. That's how we're going to sort of frame this conversation initially. Let's use Starlet's auto layout feature, which is so handy. Unlocked it and delete. Okay, so we're going to talk about the whole series of ships, primarily because they're going to be our frame of reference for the rest of this conversation. Although we will reference other cargo ships for sure, but the reason we're going to use the whole series is that they have a really nice kind of gradient scale of capability, right? So we start with the whole A, and then that whole B, C, D, and obviously the E. So we're going to use that as our point of reference. Let's talk about cargo loading though before we get into ship specific stuff. Although the whole series will factor into this. The big issue with cargo, and me and Ender just experienced this firsthand doing Save Stanton. The big issue with cargo is not the A to B, the getting to from. That's the easy part, right? What so that's the easy part of the profession, right? That's the part where you're mostly hands down. What is more important, like what the cargo loop really is, and I'm talking heavy cargo here, not just moving one SCU boxes. What the real cargo loop is loading and offloading, right? Now there's other things too, like manifests, the type of missions, distance, cost, all those other factors. But ultimately, when you boil down to the gameplay loop, what I think we're dealing with is loading and offloading, right? And what's interesting about that is typically when say a large container ship comes into port, it's not like the crew from that ship is then jumping on a crane and offloading it, right? So the ship sits in port for a bit. The crew's on board. They do their things, prep the ship for the return journey, whatever. But they're hands off at that point, I believe, in cargo. And if anyone in chat works at a port, obviously feel free to correct me. But from everything I've seen, it's really the dock workers then that are handling all the offloading and whatnot. So, and disbursement after stuff is offloaded. So really, when we were doing the Safe Stanton event, one of the things we found really kind of tricky was two things. One, moving cargo from the ship to the freight elevator, right? And there's a couple issues with that. So especially for ships at land, right? We were using Star Lancers. The bottom of the Star Lancer opens. You pull the freight box out. Depending on what the amount of cargo, I could definitely see you needing at least 3 people to quickly offload a ship of like Star Lancer on down size. You could do it with less, but if you want to be really quick about it, get the cargo off, minimize your downtime because money's all going to be about the downtime. Get the cargo off and out is going to be key. So ships that have external cargo capabilities, such as the RAF, the Hull A, ultimately the Hull B, ships like the Railin, I think eventually, stuff like that are going to be probably your fastest bet. Ships with internal cargo that has to be brought out via a ramp or something like that is going to be a little longer, a little slower. Oh, thank you for that follow. Appreciate it, Old Man Gamer. I am also an old man gamer, so thank you for that follow. Sending the javelin overhead. Everyone, we're doing really great on followers. I really appreciate it. We've been killing it, so thank you so much. So there's the external offloading. There's then internal offloading, pulling things out of cargo bays, etc. And then there's the next level of that, which is ships that can't land. So your bigger Hull series ships like the Hull C, D, and E, and then offloading those from space. Now, we've only just recently seen some possible changes to how CIG is going to handle that. And let's stay on the landed ship talk for a minute before we get into the other one. So with the landed ships, it's all going to be about the amount of people you have pulling cargo off the grid, tractoring it to the freight elevator, and sending it down, right? Which means I think the freight elevators and the extra large hangars, and we'll just go by that for now, is like 1,128 SCU. I'm sure someone in chat can correct me, but that means on anything like a from almost an ironclad down. So I would include, Hercules, all that stuff. You're going to be able to get in one freight elevator load, right? Anything from ironclad up, so ironclad, Banu Merchantman, Kraken, you're going to have multiple freight elevator runs. So again, it's all just going to be how fast you can get the cargo off and into the freight elevator, send it down. Your big consideration, though, with the ships that have to do it from space is going to be how CIG ends up building that system. So previously we saw in the Hull C commercial, which let me pull that up because it has something really interesting in it. Let me bring that up. Stand by. Here we go. Okay. There we go. There's several times during this commercial where we see a time-lapse version of the Hull C getting loaded. We see the MPVU tractor ships doing the loading and offloading, but we never really saw where they were loading it or how that was going to work. We just saw the ships here loading cargo in kind of a unique way. Actually, we'll back that up. You can see here the cargo box is kind of awkwardly attached to the MPUV. I'm not sure if CIG still plans on doing that, but I think that's interesting. What I do think CIG has now moved to is the tractor, the MPUV tractor, and you're just going to beam it and move it around like you would a normal tractor beamed object. You're no longer going to attach to it and fly it over there. But what we never really saw here was how the ships are getting the cargo. You just see them sort of flying in. Hopefully I don't eat my words, but yeah, no, I don't think you ever really see how they're getting the cargo to the ship. Well, we now kind of know because CIG has shown us a few times, right? So I'm going to go ahead and bring up, where did I put that? The first time CIG showed us was this image here. Let me bring that over. Thanks, Rusty Pigeon. Hope you are well. Is there room in the Starjump org? There is. You can join us now through Spectrum. The org is just kind of a name at the moment, but we are planning on pushing the concept of the org very soon. We're having a meeting with some of our core org leadership and mapping out a few final things, but we do plan on unveiling the org to the wider world and opening up formal applications and everything. Soon, definitely in early 2025, probably Q1 of 2025. We have big plans for it. So, for example, one of the things we want to do is just build out our organization, which we've got mostly mapped out, and we're gonna have a big merch store and stuff to support org events and all kinds of cool stuff. So, a lot of plans, more information coming soon. But this is kind of the first image we saw of potential Hull C exterior loading. We saw the Hull C docked at an interesting docking point on a station. We saw the little cargo element sticking out here. The funny thing is this does look like the cargo deck arm that is being sort of envisioned for space stations, but more on that. This is an old image. This is from last year. But essentially what you see here is you see the freight elevator right here. You see an MPVU right here, and you see some boxes stacked up. Almost implying that cargo will come up via this elevator, and then the MPUVs or whatever will grab them with their tractor beams, fly them over or whatever, or you'll use the tractor beams on the Hull C to grab them right off the cargo deck. Okay. When I saw that, I was like, okay, that could work, but I did have some concerns. But now it seems like CIG has taken a new direction with this, and I'll go ahead and show you the new direction. And that is, nope, not this one. Stand by. King, thank you for that follow. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Here we go, people. Thanks for bearing with me. Where is it? Okay, so here I'm going to bring up the supply bay. This is kind of the new vision for the cargo loading, I think, for the Hull C, and that is sort of this exterior magazine. We also see that in the cargo stuff that's the refinery for the space stations. Let me bring up the cargo one. Yep, here we go. You can see these magazines now. Exterior of all the cargo pads. See how they're sitting out here? They're all over the place. You see how the Hull Cs are kind of coming up to this area right here where there's cargo stacked and there's cargo in here. I think the idea moving forward with cargo, especially exterior, is that they are going to be loaded and offloaded via these big magazines. And these magazines act as essentially sideways freight elevators that then pull the cargo in, it gets ingested, and they come back out. This is ultimately going to be how you want to do it, right? I thought I had a better image to stand by. Did I have another image on that? I guess I don't. I didn't grab every single image from this. But again, I think what they want to do is you have your ship dock over on here, and then they just have these giant magazines that you send the cargo to. So I do think it's going to get much easier. Again, if you I thought it was this image. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me look through these images real quick, because one of these had it. Bear with me. Unless I didn't grab that particular image. Yep, I didn't. Okay. But essentially, that's how I think they're going to do it, are these magazines, which we don't currently have on our space stations. So I think that's going to really change the game for exterior cargo loading. So you're going to be able to do it essentially all from the tractor beams on the hull C. You pull the hull C up, you do a ship to station docking, and then you just go into your tractor beam control stations on the hull C. You don't even have to get out. I think you're going to be able to order the cargo right up from your ship. The cargo gets ejected out onto the side magazines that are on the space station from your tractor beam modules inside your ships. You activate those. You're literally grabbing them off the magazine, putting them on the ship. Magazine, ship, magazine, ship. You skip the whole step of having to have the MPVU tractors and Argo rafts and all that crap, moving the cargo from station to the ship, right? You avoid all that. Rao says, I never understood why containers are not used like in real life and we have to handle box by box. So, Rao, that is something that is changing. We are going to do bigger and bigger containers. That actually factors into something related to these bigger ships, too, which we can talk about. And that is currently, let me go back to Hanger Link. Currently, we deal with 32 SCU boxes on the large end of things, right? So the whole C has 32 SCU boxes. You can see them here. And let's go ahead and bring up a calculator because it's time to do some math. It's time to get a little scary. All right, so let's see here. So the whole C carries 4,608 SCU of cargo. Okay, I'll bring my calculator out. 4,608 SCU of cargo. And we have 32 SCU crates, so we're going to divide that by 32. That gives us 144 32 SCU crates that can be carried by this ship. Okay, so let's go over to the whole series, and let's go to the whole E real quick. We're going to go here. The whole E can carry 98,308 cargo, so we're going to bring up our thing. If we go 98,304 SCU, and divide that by 32 SCU crates, that's going to give us 3,700 or 3,072 32 SCU crates. That's never happening for performance reasons. So what we need to do is we need to get out of our, we definitely have to step out of that idea that 32 SCUs is the biggest boxes we're going to see. Okay, what we're going to see is cargo boxes that get much bigger, that fit on the hull E and hull D. So let's do some back of the napkin math, right? So if we have 98,304 SCU of cargo, we know the hull C carries 144 32 SCU crates. Well, let's just do the same thing. Let's divide this by 144. That would mean we need crates somewhere on the magnitude of that, like 683 SCUs, right? So you see the big gulf there between 32 SCU and 600 and some odd SCU. So there's a lot of room to grow there, okay? And I think those bigger crates, you're going to be able to store smaller crates in them. And I'm personally hoping CIG will move to a system where crates can be broken apart. So for example, maybe a 32 SCU crate is literally made up of 32 1 SCU boxes, but those boxes can, when they're together, are culled into one object. And if you decide to use a particular tractor beam, maybe it's a special tractor beam mode that separates that, it temporarily puts that one box into the 32 SCU crates, into the 32 1 SCU crates, and allows you to select 5 to 6 of them and break those out. I don't know if CIG will do that, but it would be really cool if they did. I think that could maybe be a special type of cargo box. What they also may do is just make it to where the containers essentially open up and you store stuff inside of them. I think that's how they're going to attempt to go at first, because they've already showed that off to us to some degree. Starlet says they could do some performance tweaks hiding the fact they are separate crates until they need to be separate crates. Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So if I go back here, so here is a whole D with 32 SCU crates, and here's a whole E. Let me high res this one though. Stand by. Here is a whole E with those same 32 SCU crates. I mean, you can see how crazy this is. So you're right, Starlet. They're going to have to break this up. I think what you're going to have is big. There might only be like 9 crates in here total, right? Or maybe 12 giant crates. And those essentially act, when this fills up, when this is totally full, there's some programming in there that essentially creates one mesh with that, right? It just replaces it visually with a simplified mesh for efficiency. And then when you go into tractor beam, when your tractor beam hits this to pull something off, it then switches out the low proxy, the proxy mesh for all the boxes into individual boxes, right? But here's the thing, since you're only hitting it with one tractor beam, it's just this one area that's doing it. The rest of the ship isn't. So it would still be, from an efficiency standpoint, I still think pretty good. Now, if you had multiple people doing it, if you had multiple people out there working with their tractor beams, that maybe could get a little weird. But it doesn't always have to break down to 32 SCU crates or 1 SCU crates. It could break down to just, maybe it breaks down from 680 SCU crates down to 400 SCU crates or whatever. Graham for game development. Yeah, well, I originally was in game development in college. I switched out in my late junior year. Still have a lot of friends in game development. A lot of my friends I went to college with are still in game development, so I at least have a tertiary understanding. VMXEO says, I'd like to see a 4,608 SCU crate in game. Yeah, that would be cool. Let's see here. Now, here's an interesting thing, though. And we're going to talk about ship roles specifically here, and I am going to add another ship back in here. I'm going to add the Kraken, because there's something interesting I want to talk about in regards to the Kraken or any sort of carrier type ship. I would include like Liberator, maybe even the Idris to some degree. And that is distance, right? So any of you who've been Fastcart says, how long will it take to load/unload a whole E? Fastcart, it may not take that long at all if we have those bigger SCU crates, right? So if the whole E has 600 SCU crates, then it's only going to have like 150 crates, about the same as a whole E. So, a whole C. So in that regard, size doesn't matter. It would take the same amount of time to unload the whole E as the whole C, just because it's the same number of crates. The real issue comes into making the whole E even worth your while. So having missions and jobs or just needs of moving that much cargo in a whole E, where you're okay with it being in massive 600 SCU crate boxes. You know what I mean? So you need the mission structures to support that. VG says, based off the current 1, 2, 4, 6, 16, 32 SCU crates, wouldn't CAG move up with 64, 128, 256, 512, and 1024 SCU crates? That would make the most sense, VG. My short answer is yes. My long answer is possibly. However, that will only make sense if every cargo ship's cargo grid is divisible by those numbers in some way, or some combination of those numbers, right? So, and we're already seeing a little bit of that with ships like the Zeus, where it can get 232 SU crates, 216, 16, 3 4s, you know what I mean, where they start to break up like that, but it still has to be divisible by some combination of those numbers. I think that's how CIG's doing the cargo ships. I'm not sure if anyone's ever gone through a lot of all the cargo grids to see if they're divisible by those numbers or combinations of those numbers. That would be great to know. I'm not really sure. Gin and tonic, hope you're well. But let's talk about another issue, and that is flying with protection on these big cargo runs, long distance. So the whole E, obviously, we're just going to go big here for a minute. So the hull E. Obviously, this ship is massive, 372 meters long in its current concept. That will most definitely change. The ship uses the old MISC design language. This language will be updated to be probably much more similar to this, only on a larger scale, so probably more spindles, okay? But the real issue is you're going to be long distance traveling here, so you're going to be probably jumping from multiple systems. Kaboom! Thank you for that follow. Appreciate it, Kaboom. Salute to you. Thank you so much. So when you're flying with the hull E, the more every time you stop, you're vulnerable, right? So you stop at a station, you come out of quantum to refuel, whatever the case may be, you're vulnerable. You're only as fast and you're only as, you only have as much distance as your smallest ship, essentially, right? So if you have fighters flying with you to protect you, and say you have two whole F-8Cs flying with you, you're only as fast and as high endurance as those ships, right? So let's throw down two F-8Cs. Okay, so let's say you have your two F-8Cs flying with you. You're now not flying the mighty hull E with its long distance endurance capabilities and all that. You're now essentially flying to the F-8C's metrics, right? So you can only go you can really only do as much as they can do. The only way that changes is if you have something like a Kraken along for the ride, where these smaller ships can sort of piggyback and piggyback on the Kraken, and the Kraken flies with this. But you see how exponentially now your flight group is building, right? So now you get a hull E, you're bringing along a Kraken, you got multiple fighters, you get all the crew to man all those ships, so you get a bigger and bigger and bigger footprint. Now, Part says you may be able to park fighters on the hull E and use it as a carrier. Yes, you may. Obviously, taking a little bit away from your cargo capabilities, of course, right? But maybe that's a good trade-off, right? But what's interesting from just a ship design standpoint is what I think we're missing is a ship that is a cargo ship like this, but also has real estate on board for fighter support, right? Or protection support. And I don't think it should be a full-on combat carrier, right? Because then you're taking away from those roles. But imagine if you had something like a hull E, and I'm actually just going to pull up something real quick here. Do you guys want to get a little crazy? Do you guys want to get a little crazy in Cinema 4D? I say we do it. I say we do it. We got nothing better to do, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the hull E real quick. Bear with me, because Cinema doesn't always like the hull E. It's a very it's a very unoptimized ship. Oh, that's not what I wanted to bring up. Stand by. I'm going to switch you over to main screen here in just a minute, people. Let me load this up. Sudsman says, at Starjump, the hull E should have a way to dock two Tanas to it. Is that laid out in its concept, Sudsman, or you're just saying it should? Something you want it to have. We're going to switch over to center monitor real quick here. We have the hull E up. Let me switch us off to perspective view. It's a highly unoptimized ship. There we go. Massive. Okay. And now let's also bring up Cinema 4D is going to really hate me. Really going to hate me. I'm going to bring up the Kraken here because I do think the Kraken is a good example of this. And one of the reasons why I do still think the Kraken is one of the better capital ship designs. Okay, so what we're going to do here is just for conversation's sake, we're going to grab one of the landing pads off the thing. Oh, Sinor55 just subscribed for 2 months in a row. Thank you so much, Sinor. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to grab one of the pads. We're going to go back over to the hull E. Essentially, what I think is that these big capital ships like this that carry cargo, I think they do need to have some sort of ability to carry stuff, right? So let's flip some stuff over here. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, there we go. Okay, bear with me. Yep, that's not what I wanted to do either. Okay, and then we just want to do negative scale on the X. So imagine if you just even had something like these. I mean, I just ripped this from the Kraken, obviously. And I'm sure CIG could do a much better job of integrating these into the ship in an interesting way. But imagine if you just had support pads on these massive cargo ships to support fighters just being able to tag along. It wouldn't have a lot of services on it. I'm not saying it should have full repair, rearm capability and all that stuff. But just the ability to service a small fighter or to bring a fighter along, sort of essentially like essentially it would be sort of an ancillary landing pad with a small door leading to the inside of the hull C or the hull E or whatever. And maybe you just have the one again to limit its capability, or you have two or whatever. Maybe they're just big enough for small fighters. I think could really bring a lot to these large cargo ships and really alleviate some of the concerns people have for the lift you're going to have to move large loads. Now, I'm not saying that hull E's should be able to move 98,000 SCU without major org support. Maybe that's the purpose, right? Maybe they want you to bring along all those ships. But I do think little things like that from a design perspective, when CIG goes back in to sort of redesign the whole D and E's, because they are going to get a pretty major redesign, I do hope they take that into consideration. Just like long distance exploration ships like the Odyssey and the Carrack and stuff like that have little hangars for little runabouts, so should the large cargo ships to bring along, an Arrow or an F8 or an F7A or something. VG says the whole E-pads could unhinge upwards to reduce profile when landed. Yep, I agree. Gentok says, Starjump Graham, something I've been fighting for these large cargo ships is self-contained weapon systems packed into 32 SCU containers. Give you ability to build Q ships. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it'll be interesting to see how far CIG goes with our ability to customize what's on the cargo grids in general, right? So, for example, I've often wondered, again, just getting weird with it, I've often wondered why you would not be able to take sentry turrets from the Nautilus and just attach sentry turrets to your cargo grid and have them active. The idea is that they still target independently anything that's hostile around it. So could you not attach those sentry turrets to your cargo grid and just fly around like that in lieu of the entire ship being covered in point defense turrets? You know what I mean? Maybe CIG's vision too, and we'll see this whenever the hull D and the hull E go into production, is perhaps CIG really intends for these ships to have a lot more PDCs on them, even more maybe than maybe even more than a military ship. We don't know. It's possible, right? Arch Ralph says Hull C should have space in the elevator to carry an MPU VT. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's part of the reason we're seeing these magazines now, Arc, is that they I think they almost want to get away from the support ships, which for those of us that own some of these support ships, right, like the MPVUV tractor, stuff like that, it does make you question their usefulness. I have an MPUV tractor. Actually, I think I melted it. I do think I melted it. But I had one, and more I started wondering why I have one. Yeah. Let's see here. So it says Starjump, if you want to get weird, make all the external turrets be attached to Furies as turrets that can detach for support. Yeah, I mean, you could. probably less efficient just because you're going to need now a massive crew. You're going to need enough people to carry or to fly all those Furies. And because there's no exit, those people need to remain in the Furies for the time they're connected. And I'm not sure if CIG is going to allow ships to be connected to cargo grids like that if there's someone in the cockpit. Does that make sense? Does anyone know if we've ever heard that? I feel like CIG would limit the ability for you to carry ships on a cargo grid with someone in the pilot seat. Now, and before you say like the Kraken stuff, they're on the cargo grid, but they're not even on a cargo grid. They're on a flight deck. So it has gravity, but it's different than a cargo grid. Question: if you're going to load/unload big hull freighters, would you want a raft or an MPUVT? Personally, I don't think I'd want any. Only because it's handling it one box at a time via other ships, I think is problematic. What if you wanted to offload them to another ship? Honestly, the two ships that are the best fit right now, in my opinion, are the Ironclad and the Caterpillar, and for two semi-different reasons. With the Caterpillar, you can just pull up next to any of these ships, right? You can pull up next to a whole C, and when you're pulled up next to it, your tractor beams on the whole C, which you can see here, back here, and there's ones on the bottom. All they're doing is dragging boxes from here right into the open bays of the Caterpillar. So the Caterpillar, while a lot of people think it's got a lot of issues, it actually still is one of the most flexible ships in terms of cargo loading because of those big bays that open. Now, even better than that, though, I think, is the Ironclad, because you can open up its big bay doors, you can get on any side of the hull C, and people just can, the tractor beams on the hull C can detach, load into the Ironclad immediately with its big open doors. So I don't think so I think these are two really good offloading support ships, even better than, say, something like C2s and stuff like that, where you still have a choke point in the ramp where you have to get cargo in. Hudson says, Starjump Graham, what would be your personal choice? Ironclad costs $450 and has 1536 SCU, and Hull C costs $500 and is possible to get for $450 and has 4608 SCU. So yeah, and then you're talking about the path to the Hull D and all that. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I did because I've already made this personal choice, Hudson. So I did have a Hull C because cargo running, like large scale cargo running, I'm not talking like a few boxes for safe standing, but like large scale cargo running is something I want to do. So I had a Hull C, and I did a CCU from the Hull C to the Hull D. The reason I landed at the Hull D is I think the Hull D is going to be in that sweet spot of requiring a crew, but I'm thinking 3 to 4 to manage the ship. But at 20,000 SCU of cargo, you're really getting a lot for those 4 crewmates. There's nothing about the Hull D that demands a bigger crew than the Hull C when you really think about it. You're still going to need an engineer to work the back of the ship. You're going to still need to have people to man your tractor beams and obviously a pilot and stuff. But there's nothing really from an order of magnitude different about the ship other than its length that would necessitate more crew. So I think going from the Hull C's 4,608 up to the Hull D's 20,000 something SCU cargo for pretty much the same amount of crew, I think was a good upgrade. So I did CCU to that. And then on the Ironclad, with the Ironclad thing, I just decided I wanted an Ironclad in addition. Well, I'm a big Drake fan, obviously. If any of you have watched this show, you know I'm a big Drake fan. But the Ironclad, to me, the funny thing about the Ironclad is the Ironclad, it's a good cargo ship, right? It makes a good cargo ship. So and there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people are going to use it as a cargo ship. But I bought it, and let me bring up the website for the Ironclad real quick so we can talk about it a little better. But I bought the Ironclad specifically because of something CIG has told us all about, and that is, where's my images here? Bear with me. Where are the externals? Oh, here we go. I bought the Ironclad because I am a big fan of emergent gameplay. So gameplay we make up on our own, all right? That is sort of outside the gameplay loops. I'm going to be big into crafting for sure. Crafting goes along with base building in many ways. I'm going to be doing a lot of crafting. And I totally see the Ironclad as a great ship to set up shop in. Like actually put like little stores and stuff, repair shops, whatever. And again, it can, in many ways, the Ironclad can act as like a poor man's crucible, a poor man's Banu merchantman, right? It's Graham's going to install a roller rink and start a leak. Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, it's just got a big, open, flexible amount of space. It's not even just that it carries 15 or 1500 SCU of cargo. It's how it carries that cargo, right? It's just a big open area. CIG have pretty much said this ship is a cargo bay with engines, right? That's much different than a lot of other cargo ships where the cargo area is an integrated part of its superstructure, obviously, but still part like it's still like you may have like on the whole series you have a spindle here, you have a spindle here, over here, then you have other ones on the back that face the other way. So again, it's all kind of, they've separated the cargo out to fit where it can fit, where the Ironclad it's just one big open area. And while yes, you can do cargo in there, it also means you can do almost anything in there, right? You can bring vehicles in there to repair them. It can be a great way station for cargo transfers because it's all enclosed. If you're going to be able to put which I think this will be a thing, if you're able to buy medical beds, like say tier 2, tier 3 medical beds as just standalone modules, which I do think you're going to be able to do, as long as they fit on the cargo grid and you have the power in your ship to run the power supplies and resource supplies for the bed, you could turn the Ironclad into a mobile hospital, whatever. Again, it's just the Ironclad I bought for the same reason I bought the Kraken. It's a flexible ship design that's going to be able to do multiple things. So for example, here's another weird thing you could use it for. Let's say you are building a base, right? You've set up shop with you and your buddy. You're building out a large base, and the base is going to take a few days to build, right? And you guys have flown all your ships out there. You got multiple valuable things and stuff. The Ironclad could act as like essentially like a personal locker, right? You can put tons of your stuff inside the belly of the Ironclad and essentially put that ship, lock it down and just have everything there. Or you can send that ship down into the hangar with all of its gear in there, and it sort of just acts as a personal locker space for you. Again, I just love it. It sort of comes down to just again how it's organized, the fact that you can partition different areas of the cargo bay to be for different things. The Star Lancer Max is a good example of this issue, where it's got cargo running one side, cargo running the other, and then cargo in the back. And when me and Ender were running Save Stanton event, we were like, okay, Ender, you put all your cargo for your missions in the far back. I'm going to put mine on the side here, and we'll put overflow on the other side. It was fine, but it was all kind of like scattered. So Ender had to be at one end of the ship. I'm over here, and we'd had to like park the ship close to the freight elevators where it like accommodated both of us. I like the idea though of a cargo ship that just has a big giant ass open area and you can organize stuff in there how you want. I really like that. So yeah, Ironclad I bought because I like it, and I also think 1500 SCU is a really nice amount of cargo. Explain more of that in a minute. And then the hull C and hull D and all that. The hull D I think is just the sweet spot for me in org related issues, because one of the things Starjump wants to do is not only build bases, but also help other people build their bases, help other people build space stations, etc. So being able to have an Ironclad with 1500 SCU of cargo, that means an Ironclad can fly to the Pioneer that's maybe building something. And with that 1500 SCU of cargo, you're going to be able to fully restock the Pioneer, and it's 1000 SCU of cargo. I just had John Crew reconfirm that 1000 to me personally just recently. He replied to my Twitter message on that. You'll be able to fully resupply the Pioneer with 500 extra SCU to drop down as overflow, right? Versus C2 that you would fly in with whatever 600 something SCU of cargo. You don't quite fill up the Pioneer's cargo bay after it's been building giant bases, so it requires another run, etc. I look for synergy sometimes with some of my ships. Let's see here. What about the Spartan chassis for a cargo hauler? Are you referring to the ballista type vehicles, the anvil ground vehicles? Let me know what you think. Shimpasa says Ironclad Assault. Yeah, I think the Ironclad Assault's also cool. I have it as well. I'm going to see which one fits my playstyle better. The Atlas platform. Cosmic Sea Turtle, I can confirm that both Ironclads have the retractable roof. The standard one and the assault variant. Yeah. Atlas platform. Yeah. I mean, it could be a good cargo, a ground cargo hauler. Yeah, it absolutely could be a good ground cargo hauler. Do we have a big ground cargo hauler? I don't think we do. Do we? Do we have like a ballista cargo? We don't have that already? What did I think we did? They're all combat related then, aren't they? We don't. Okay, well then that's something we definitely need. We're going to need a ground vehicle, something based off the Spartan chassis. And is that what it's called? Spartan? I thought it was Titan. Atlas platform. That's what it is. Atlas platform. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, guys. We're going to need some sort of Atlas platform based ground cargo vehicle. I think it should be able to carry probably. I think it probably needs to be able to carry at least 100 SCU of cargo. Probably. So what it would probably be is 4 32 SCU crates. So 32 times 4, that's going to give you 128 SCU cargo. I think there needs to be a ground vehicle that can carry that much. That seems about right to me. That would be 6 runs, about 6 runs from like a C2. It'd be a big ground vehicle. I-50 says, question, when do you think the Hull B will released and why do you think it's taking so long? I think it's due to the ability to land on planets. I think it's just, I think the reason they didn't move on to the Hull B personally, although I haven't asked a developer this, I think it's due to the fact that they had enough ships to cover that. I think they needed a good starter cargo ship, so the Hull A was perfect, and it was a great way to test 2 extremes of the new MISC design language. So you have the Hull C, and then also the Hull A. So those were kind of 2 extremes. I think as they switch back to MISC ships, which they've said they are. They specifically said large MISC and large Drake ships. I think we're going to see the Hull B come. I really do. I think we're going to get the Hull B when they turn their attention back to the Odyssey, the Expanse, the Hull D, Hull E. I don't know how many of the big MISC ships they're going to move through, but they're not. They never just work on big ships from that manufacturer. They always throw in a small one or two just to help onboard people. So I think the Hull B will be one of those, and I think there's a bunch of ways they can still build the Hull D to carry the same SCU of cargo without having the bottom spindle and disaffect landing. BG says Ironclad secure storage seems to be in addition to the 1536 main cargo. Any idea how many SCU in secure storage? I don't. Did they not lay that out? Let's see. It just says additional storage with extra security. I'll be honest with you, it looks like places to store 1 SCU boxes. Maybe 2 SCU boxes, but nothing bigger. I think those are 1 SCU box areas. That's what I think. Yep. What's the MSRP on the ironclad? I forget what the cost of the ironclad is. Does someone know? Does someone know the price of the ironclad offhand? $450. Yeah. So yeah, a number of people may look at that and go, "Well, why wouldn't I just do 500 and get the whole C? It carries more cargo." There is other considerations to go on there. Again, I go back to that thing of consider loading and offloading. The amount you carry is good because it means less trips, but that's only as important as how long it takes to load and offload the ship, right? If it takes you longer to offload the whole C than it does the ironclad, and in the ironclad you're able to make 2 trips in the time it takes to do the whole C, then again you start to wonder like what's worth it, right? It's going to come a lot. It's going to come down to a lot of like personal, subjective play style sort of stuff. Hudson says, Graham, how do you feel? Can a Sult's 1156 SEU be a problem without installed tractor beams? It could. However, I think pretty much at any given time on board an ironclad assault, you're going to want at least 2 to 3 Argo Atlases just sitting in there. The cargo, the mech suit things. You're going to want a few of those on board. It's going to make it a little bit more of a pain. But I don't think it's going to hurt it that much. I don't think it's going to hurt it that much personally. Internal cargo haulers are far more utilitarian, more variety of gameplay. Yeah, it just offers more variety. However, you're sacrificing a little bit. I mean, there's a reason the hull D and E and C carry so much cargo. It's because they carry them in a way that you're going to be able to I think ultimately for those scales of cargo, you're going to be able to load the quickest. So I think when you get up into the 20,000, 40,000, 98,000 SE of cargo, the whole series of ships are going to be the ones that you can offload the quickest, right? Because again, what I think we're going to see ultimately is instead of all these individual SCU crate or 32 SCU boxes here, you're going to see just bigger block boxes that maybe carry 600 SCU, and there'll be like 150 of those boxes on here. So in effect, you're only going to ever want to use the hull E in a situation where you have to deliver cargo loads over whatever the minimum size crate it can carry. Right? You wouldn't want it, for example, you wouldn't want to use, if the hull E carried 1,000 SCU crates, you don't want to do jobs in it where you're delivering 500 SCU crates because now your smallest crate can't accommodate that, right? So bare minimum, and that's me being generous, bare minimum, the hull E, you're going to want to do jobs where you're delivering at least 50,000 SCU of cargo, right? Let's see, any other questions about, so let's go into let me go back to my other image here real quick, everyone. I want to go back to this image here, and I want to talk about actually, you know what? No, I know what I'm looking for now. I know what I'm looking for. Let me pull it up real quick. I just remembered what it is I was looking for. I now remember what it is. Is everyone having a good day today? I hope so. Okay, let me... Okay, we're going to bring this over. Okay. And we're going to, they're going to jump up here to the space station. I think they show it here in a second. We're going to fast forward. Talking about the supply bay. Let's see if this plays what I'm talking about here. Yeah, okay, so here it is. Let's see if they show it a little better. Everyone, thank you for the follows. Citizen Thorn, feeling sick. Sorry about that. I hope you get better soon, Citizen. Sorry you're not feeling well. It's been a lot of that going around at my house as well. Let's keep going here. I'm hoping they show something. I can't remember if they do or not. There's the construction drones, by the way, for anyone that was curious. That is a construction drone, a base building construction drone. Flying around. See the drones here going in and out of the supply bay to reload on materials. And up here, I think they show it right here. Bear with me. There's the drones going. Okay, here we go. You can see right here, cargo ships are attaching 32 SCU crates to the cargo grid, right? So however big CIG makes these magazines, I think is as big of crate we're going to get. Ultimately, I think you're going to be able to pull up. Hey, Trispone, hope you're well. For everyone that doesn't know, Trispone, hopefully I'm saying that right, does some great stuff over on his YouTube channel. Type in his name on YouTube. He does some great 3D model stuff related to ships. Some really impressive stuff, actually. But I think the size of this magazine is ultimately the size of the biggest crates we're going to be able to carry. So, again, you can stack vertically. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we're going to get a crate that's essentially that big that fits on the hull E. We'll have to see. But essentially what I think they're going to want to make it is where when you pull up a hull E, you can pull up a hull E right here and offload those crates directly onto the magazine and build things like bases and stuff, right? Stuff that requires a lot of material, right? So for example, in a hull C, let's bring up our calculator again. Let's do 98,304, and let's divide that by the number that a hull C carries. So this is what a hull E carries. Let's divide this by 4,608. So it takes 21.3 hull C trips to equal a hull E trip. Okay, so it gives you an idea. If it was going to take 21 trips in the hull C full of cargo to get a space station build, maybe it only takes one trip in the hull E, right? Question from Agent: do you think CIG will work on the whole series before the Odyssey? No, I think the Odyssey will be the big ship they move to. I think Agent, what I think they're doing, and I have not spoken to a dev about this like specifically. I think they are going to work on the whole series, or sorry, the Odyssey, or sorry, nope, that's wrong. They're going to work on the Starlancer series first, right? That's currently what they're working on, and then after the Starlancer, they're going to move to the Odyssey. That's what I think. That's what I think. So Starlancer TAC, Starlancer build, Odyssey, Expanse, Hull B. I think we'll get the Hull B and the Expanse as add-ons because we're going to need refinery gameplay. I think those ships are just going to come from onboarding, and then we will get like I said, Starlancer build, Starlancer TAC, Odyssey, and then whether they start to build out the whole D and E, I don't know. I actually think the whole E is going to be post 1.0. I think that's going to be post 1.0 actually for the whole E. I could be wrong. I am speculating wildly, by the way, about that, but I think it's a post 1.0 ship, only because I think CIG. I could see a world where moving that much cargo isn't quite necessary yet. I think the 20,000 SCU from the whole D is going to be more than enough to facilitate building space stations and base building and just all the stuff we need to move cargo for. I think the whole E at its 98,000 SCU is actually going to require new types of things to build or incredibly long mission chains or something like that. And I just don't think that's ultimately necessary for 1.0. We'll see. I mean, I could be totally wrong. But I think whole D will come out. And then I think the whole E we're going to wait a while on. In my opinion, Odyssey becomes pattern for the Endeavor. Possibly VG. I was telling this to Ender the other day that I actually think the Starlancer could be the pattern for the Endeavor. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, the Endeavor shuttle module, that front module is not supposed to like be able to, I don't think it has a jump module in it, for example. So it doesn't need to be huge. It doesn't need to be the size of an Odyssey. They could make it the size of the Starlancer, to be totally honest with you. Um, the the Endeavor, its scale is going to be made up of its long truss center section, that long superstructure truss that moves in the middle. Um, I do think when they, and this could be happening now, I don't know. While the ship team won't move on to it, I don't. The Endeavor will definitely be a post 1.0 ship, as John Crew has said. I do think the concept team might do a tertiary, like high level exterior pass on the Endeavor, just to bring that a little bit more in family to the ships. And they may come in on an actual length of the ship. Currently, it's listed as 200 meters. It's definitely going to grow. Yep. Thank you for agreeing, Fast Cart. Smart minds think alike, my friend. Let's see here. Unfortunately, I can see the Endeavor getting a big dash in small view. Yeah, probably. I mean, here's the thing. I know there's a lot of people out there that think the Endeavor is going to need to grow like to monstrous proportions. I personally just I personally don't think that. I don't think that is truly necessary. I think that the Endeavor is currently 200 meters. I think even on the highest end, the Endeavor could grow to like hull E length, but I still think that's wildly unnecessary. I think the hull E could, or sorry, the Endeavor. I think the Endeavor could grow. Actually, maybe Carrack length or Kraken length, so around 270 meters, something like that. And you may ask why that long. If they built it that long, it would still allow it to land. I'm not sure if they want the Endeavor to remain truly in orbit. I think maybe the original um, plan for it was to not be able to land, but maybe they're going to change that. If they are changing it, then it can't grow much larger than the Kraken because the Kraken is really fits snugly into the extra large hangars. Um, any bigger than that, and you start to get into being limited to space docking only. Um, First time chatter says, as much as I want the merchantman, I don't see the point of it without the merchant capabilities, which means, yeah, I agree. Um, I, 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 I also think the merchantman may be a post 1.0 ship and the privateer actually. Draco says, is the XL hangar the biggest there will be? Not necessarily. It's just the biggest we currently have, and we haven't heard anything on anything larger. If CIG enables the whole DE to carry ships on their cargo grids, could they give ship transport missions for them? Absolutely. So Citizen mentions that it has been stated before, and I think we even saw some pictures of it before, where the Hull E is carrying. Yeah, we saw videos of it when they were talking about cargo grids for the Hull C. The whole D and E and possibly the C being able to attach small ships to these cargo grids to carry them along. So maybe you're carrying a load of 100 eyes and stuff. Why do I think that is going to be a thing? It goes back to one of Draco says they showed one of the hulls carrying a Gladius. Okay. It's something that John Crew mentioned about the Kraken. And again, this may have been just an offhanded comment, but he did say that the Kraken is like an in-game cargo ship in addition to being whatever else it is. And that made me think, and I thought, well, maybe it's because it can carry ships, and ships can be cargo sometimes. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting if CIG in their internal behind the scenes idea of cargo gameplay, including ship transport, that could be really cool and interesting. We'll have to see. I could definitely see if you build a base and you're trying to move your fleet to your base to be set up permanently. I could definitely see using ships like the Hull series, Kraken, Liberator, stuff like that to bring your fleets to the base location, fly down, or in orbit. Your small ships take off, fly down to the base for permanent storage. I could definitely see that. Any other cargo related questions? Trisman says, hey, Graham, thanks for the shout out. I just joined later and you had some artwork, a long ship for a minute before going to station building clip. What was that? So far, I've only been showing the Hull E, Ironclad, and D series of shit. That's primarily what we've been talking about. So it must have been the Hull E. If it was something different, I'm not sure what I had up. Draco says, do you think fuel costs will make a dent in cargo? Well, that is kind of the $100 question, right? So, when buying a ship, there's people that might go, oh, well, I want the hull E because it carries the most amount of storage, so it's going to be the most profitable. Well, the long ship. Let me see. One second. One second. Are you talking about? You might be talking about. Are you talking about the Retribution, Trispone? I'm not sure. I'm not sure which ship you're talking about. You might have been talking about the Retribution, which is this monster. Oh, the posters. I think you're probably talking about the Retribution then. It was not in Fleet Viewer. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what I had up. Damn it. Now you got me curious, though. Oh. Was it this? Was it this here? Yeah, that's not a ship. That's a supply bay. And the supply bay, so how it works, Trispone, is the supply bay is built by the Pioneer in orbit or in space. And it's a structure and it's got a little command module on it here. Once you build the supply bay with the Pioneer, yeah, then from the supply bay, you build the space station. And when the space station is built, the supply bay is integrated into the space station. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. I just noticed it's got a little defensive cannon right there. That's cool. A couple of them, actually. It's an interesting structure. I really can't wait to hear more about it. CIG just briefly sort of glossed over it at CitizenCon. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize it had an output bay of cargo. I wonder what kind of output it's doing. I wonder if it can refine stuff, maybe? That would be interesting. Let's see here. Starjump, do you think the Ironclad will actually be a good ship or just a bigger caterpillar? I think it'll be a bigger caterpillar, but a more useful caterpillar because the cargo bay is arranged in such a way that you have more flexibility. So I think it'll be a bigger caterpillar, but a slightly better caterpillar. They do look like Sea-Wiz. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Again, hopefully, again, for these shipyard episodes, I mean, the idea behind them is that we come in, we can talk about certain topics. Even though CIG may have talked about them, we can talk about them in new lights. We can see how certain ships will fit into that paradigm. Obviously, with cargo, there's a lot of different ways you can go about cargo. There's a lot of different scales of cargo, everything from C2s to hull A's to rafts to Krakens to hull E's, right? We really cover the gamut. Cargo running is going to be, while there are going to be missions and everything tied to it, cargo running is also going to tie in directly to base building. So it's going to be a fundamental thing that all of us need to do. So when ships carry cargo, I don't even consider them always a cargo ship. I consider them a general purpose ship because moving cargo is going to be a part of all of our lives. So in a way, you could say we're all cargo runners, right? You really can. It's just about how focused you are on cargo. But even if all you want to do is base building, you're still going to be running cargo, right? Even if you're not doing any resource gathering, no mining, no salvage, whatever, you're still going to be running cargo from wherever you're buying it from to your base location for building, right? Cargo drones, Draco says. That's actually an interesting thing. Alex Wang says, do you think they'll add drones for moving cargo? Probably. Cargo moving drones would be really interesting. Okay. Everyone, I appreciate you all hanging out with me today. We had a great time just talking about stuff. Again, I'll be back streaming later this week, and let's see who do we got here. Let's look at who we have. Any more last minute questions? And again, if you want an IAE poster, those are being processed. Okay, those are being processed. So, I know who we'll raid. We'll raid our good buddy over here. Question: how big are the Orison shuttles? Do we have any similarly sized ships? Is it just Cutlass size? I think it's a little smaller than the Cutlass, actually. I'm not sure if VMXEO. Dunrail, thank you for that follow. Appreciate the follows, everyone. You're sending the Javelin overhead, and for that, I appreciate it. You're all amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. I don't think the shuttles are that big, actually. VMXEO, are you in chat? Have we ever measured those? Let me know if we have. Tick Limnus. Hopefully I said that right. Thank you for that follow. Appreciate it. I give you the double salute. You are amazing. Everyone, I'm going to send you over to a friend of the channel. I was actually supposed to be on a show just a couple weeks ago. I had to cancel due to things, but hopefully I'll get on there soon enough. Please give him some Starjump love. Say Fastcart says, do you have any publicity copies of the posters available somewhere? Fastcart, you've been a great supporter of Starjump. If you are interested in any poster, DM me, and I will set you up. You have done a lot to support me and Starjump in general. You've had me as a guest on your show many times, so please reach out to me if you're interested in one. I will set you up, buddy. For the rest of you, I'm going to send you over to Space Tomato. Please give him some love. Give him a little bit of that Starjump love. Have a great time over on his channel. Looks like he's playing some 4.0 possibly. In the meantime, you'll see me later this week. No Star Raven, not selling any posters. CIG does not allow me to do that. But go enjoy Space Tomato, and you'll see me all streaming later this week. Everybody, have a good night. Thank you so much. Oh, I just got rated. Solomon the Vengeful just rated with 9 viewers. Solomon, thank you so much. I was actually just raiding as well. I hope you had a great stream. Thank you very much. I'm sending you all over to Space Tomato. Solomon, thank you for that raid, man. I really appreciate it. Salute to you, buddy. Everyone, Solomon, thank you for the follows, everybody. Thank you for the traction. I appreciate it. Trying to get back to it. You're all amazing. Thank you, Solomon. Pass on the love. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. In Space, thank you for that follow. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Give Keenan the love. Appreciate it. Talk to y'all soon.